Hey, what's up, guys? Frugal BC. Experts have been predicting that Bitcoin is going to run up to around 100,000 before we hit a bear cycle. Now, why did they know that? Well, today's episode of Frugal BC, I'm going to explain why that is. I'm going to explain the golden bull ratio, the 51-49 ratio, it's sometimes called, and the market cycles with Bitcoin, and why we expect to see that, and why we're going to be heading to a bear run next. All that on today's Frugal BC. Hey, what's up, guys? Frugal BC here. Today I'm going to talk about Bitcoin and the golden bull ratio, and kind of talk a little bit about bull and bear cycles and where we're headed. Before we do that, really love it if you'd hit that like button, and if you love making money in crypto and learning about crypto, hit that like button. And I'd also love it if you hit the subscribe button, just so we can show this to more people. We're really growing. I'm super happy about that. I'm really blown away by the number of subscribers we've gotten in the last month. So super cool, super great for the channel, and it's great because I can show more people the stuff about crypto, because I think a lot of it is really understood, or misunderstood. I had someone ask me about Bitcoin and thought you needed like a certain type of computer to run it, which of course is not at all true. So a lot of this misconception is out there, and I want to explain it. And frankly, a lot of this stuff isn't well explained. There's a lot of knowledge where people, when they present the information, they don't present it thoroughly. So that's what we're going to do today. A lot of people are saying, a lot of experts are saying Bitcoin is still going to pump to around 100,000. You know, there's some people that say 120, something maybe a little lower. And then after that, we're going to go into a bear cycle. So why do they think this? Well, I'm going to show you a chart, and this is going to kind of explain it, but I'm going to talk through it too. It's called the Bitcoin golden bull ratio, otherwise known as 51-49. So I've read a number of explanations of this, and I have to say it's pretty poorly explained. It's just not worded well. And so I'm going to explain why this works. So if you can see from the ratio, if you look at, I'm going to pull it up on my screen here too. So if you look at the chart, I'm looking at it on my screen here too, you'll see that it tends to be, you can kind of divide the cycles into three sections. And one of those, kind of a third almost, it's not quite a full third. Actually, the bear cycle tends to be a little shorter. But you could basically say you have three parts. And sometimes they call this the two parts of the bull cycle the halving. I don't really like that, because the halving is actually we already have a thing called the halving, which is every 4 years. The amount that Bitcoin miners are able to extract from the system is halved, so we call it the halving, and that affects this cycle. So we can talk about that. Wow, I just lost my earpod. But so basically what happens, we start off with a bear cycle, and the price goes down. Obviously it's not a steady, you see way more red candles than green, but you don't see exclusively one or the other. And then at some point we hit a bottom, and then what we see is we see kind of a slow rise up, and we see this every single time, which is really impressive. We've seen this every time. There's a slow rise up, and that's where the 51-49. So the two halves of the bull cycle can be divided up as 51 and 49. What does that mean, right? 51 from what? Well, it's 50% up from the very bottom of the bull cycle, of the bear market. So when we hit that bottom, we reach a certain point. It's typically been around 500 days. Some of them have been shorter, like 300 days. So, and then after 51%, that's where we see the second part of the bull cycle, which is more like is 49%, but that's when we skyrocket to the top. And like I said, this has happened every way. Well, we're in the middle of that 49 right now, and that's why people think that the price is going to go up to 100,000. Now, why do I think that? Why do I think that that particular price? Well, the reason is if you look at these something called the stock to flow ratio, and I've done a video on it. I think it's this side, might be this side. I can never remember which side it pops in on. If you look at the stock to flow model, it shows that Bitcoin follows a certain parabolic curve in value, and the only time that it deviates from that value has tended to be during the bear cycle. So it kind of like, there's the rise, the parabolic rise, and Bitcoin follows it, and then it veers off during the bear market, and then it catches back up. So that stock to flow model has us at around 100,000 right now. So the reason why, and it's like I said, it's followed it extremely closely. The only time it varies from that is during the bear market, but then it catches back up during the bull market. So right now that should have us at about 100,000, and this is why people think that we have another, we have another period, we have another shot at about 100,000 before we hit the bear market. So what's going to happen? We hit a certain top, and then that top falls off, and we start going back down. Now, what do you do during this time? This is when you want to be accumulating. You want to be gaining more Bitcoin. Right now is not a bad time to accumulate if you believe that cycle is coming. And it's followed this pretty closely. You'll see some big sell-offs if you look at the ratio. If you look at the chart, you'll see there's been sell-offs, but it overall tends to go up, and quite a bit, especially during the second half, the 49% part of it. And this time looked a little bit different because we had something of a Wyckoff distribution. So I don't know if you guys know what Wyckoff is. Uncomplicated did a really good video on that. I'll probably put a link below in the description explaining the Wyckoff cycle. But basically what it is, it's a pattern by which you can see manipulation in the market. So we saw that pretty heavily. We're kind of at the bottom. If you look at where we are now, we're actually kind of at the bottom, the end of the Wyckoff cycle. That means that institutions, you see this in stocks a lot, but now they're bringing it over to Bitcoin. Now that the institutions are really starting to get involved, they run up the price, they sell off the top, and then there's a pattern where it comes back down, and then they're accumulating. So we've been accumulating for a while. We were accumulating in the 30,000s, and now we've been sitting around 40, 46, 47, 48, around that range. So I don't, as far as price prediction, I don't know. Are we going to go to 100,000? I don't know. I mean, the models indicate that that's the most likely scenario, but that doesn't mean it happens. As anyone will tell you, past market behavior is not predictive of future, or not a guarantee at least, of future market returns. So we don't really know. It seems likely, because Bitcoin has always followed this cycle pretty much from the beginning, that it's likely to keep happening. I think it's not a bad thing to bet on, but be prepared for all. So if this is the top and we go into a bear market, then you just start accumulating. So you just react to the market. If it goes up to 100,000 or even 80,000, I mean, I'm going to start taking profits at probably like 75, because it's just too good of a opportunity to pass up. So I'll maybe sell off a little bit at 75, a little bit more in the 80s, a little bit more in the 90s, and then I'll buy back in during the bear cycle. So you don't have to do this, by the way. You can, a perfectly good strategy is to simply dollar cost average, maybe back off a little when the price is really high, and wait until the price is low, but you don't have to do profit taking. I think it's a good idea if you're comfortable. If you just started getting into Bitcoin, I wouldn't do this. I would just keep accumulating, and if the price gets too high, just wait a little bit. One thing that Bitcoin doesn't do is it doesn't tend to stay the same price for really long. You don't have a lot of you don't have like a year of sideways action. You might have, we definitely during 2014 to 2015, we definitely had a period of what might seem sideways. It mostly went down, and all of that would have been great accumulation territory. Even 15 to 16 was great accumulation territory. Now I started buying in 2017, and then the price skyrocketed, and I sold the top, but I never got back in. That was my problem. never got back in. Had I gotten back in, I would have had more Bitcoin, which would have been worth more money going down the road. So all things to think about. Just wanted to give that video out there today because I think this stuff is really poorly understood, and I think frankly it hasn't been explained that well. I read like 4 or 5 things that talked about 5149. They all use the same language. They just cut and paste the same language, and they don't really seem to like try to understand what they're actually talking about. So I want people to understand this. This is why I do it the way I do it. This is why I wanted to do this video, so I could, I think in explaining it, it helps me understand it more too, personally. So there's a benefit in, I've always heard this of teaching, that if you teach something, you learn more. And I think that's been the case here, but I hope you guys learned something. I hope you understand why people are saying that, because I didn't know for a while. I kept thinking, well, what do they know? They would claim to have some insight, but they're not explaining it. So I want you guys to know, so you understand it when you see it. This is what they're talking about. It helped me further under my understanding as well. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all the things. And as always, Frugal BC is out, and we will see you in the future.